Fran, can you hear us?
They can't respond.
Frederick Anderson can hear you.
Great.
Yes, I can hear you. This is Fran. I can hear you.
Can you see us?
And I can see you.
Fabulous.
Perfect. All right.
All right.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna take over now.
It's so, I mean, I can see you. Yeah. I'm not used to not seeing myself when I talk to someone anymore.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I need to officially reconvene from to open session from our closed meeting. There were no actionable items in the closed meetings, so I'm now adjourning the closed meeting, adjourning the special meeting and opening our regular meeting of the Granada Community Services District Board. And we do another roll call?
Yeah, there's no one turn on. So Director Marsh?
Here.
Director Randall?
Here.
Director Clark?
Here.
Director Dye?
Here.
And Director Grant is out sick.
Okay. Do we have, I see we have some members of the general public. Do we have any members of the general public who would like to comment on any items which are not on this evening's agenda? And actually, could you please raise your hand? Use your Zoom thing to raise your hand. Michelle.
I can't see everybody.
Who can you see?
I can see Nancy and a mask and then Barbara and then I see 4 people, that's all.
Yeah.
But I can't enlarge it or anything.
You're seeing Matthew.
Yeah.
Are you seeing Matthew? It's the camera. It's this.
Yeah.
I can't tell. I can't
Yeah.
see somebody on the right,
Yeah.
but I
So
can't
you're
see who
seeing
they are.
Matthew, Jen Randall, and Barbara
Yeah.
Guy, which I
We just
just
don't have it wide.
I can see everyone.
Okay. We obviously this is our very first hybrid meeting, and we're doing it with only our second webinar, so apologies as we work out the details. This is the first time we've been face to face with our
Got everybody.
That's great.
sorry, Chuck just showed us what you can see on your screen. Thank you. So we will proceed and we'll try to work out who you can see as we go along. Any other Michelle, don't forget to lower your hand. Any other comments from the public while we work out our technical details? If not, then we will move on to our regular meeting agenda. First item is a report on the proposed recreation center, follow up to a couple of meetings, lots of discussion in October and February. Just to recap for people who have not been following all along, GCSD has been working with Group 4 Architecture since August 2022 to develop a proposed design for the new community recreation center on the 480 Avenue Alhambra property that the district acquired in August 2021. Project management team for this project included Group 4 architect Don Merkis, Kikuchi and Kenkel landscape architect Tom Conroy, GCSD's general manager Chuck Duffy, 2 GCSD board members, initially Barbara Dye and myself, and since January, Jen Randall replaced Barbara Dye on the PMT. We worked with the building programming priorities that have been developed by the board Community Recreation Center Ad Hoc Committee, which was Director Dye and myself, and endorsed by the board in early 2021 when we were evaluating another site. The Ad Hoc Committee also agreed to evaluate whether it would be feasible to include a preschool and specifically a licensed childcare facility in the new Community Recreation Center. And just to be clear, any recreation center of any design can have activities including preschool curriculum for early childhood development, but there are very specific requirements for a licensed child care center. As reviewed at our October and February meetings, the Community Recreation Center project management team has not included a licensed child care facility in the CRC design due to the limited size of the CRC, the potential usage within that limited size, our available space on the property, zoning, which is not including commercial businesses, and cost, which may drive us to phase the project, and most importantly, GCSD's lack of authority as a special district to acquire, construct, improve, maintain, or operate childcare facilities. This is something that we really delved into in November, and now have a full understanding what we're allowed to and not allowed to do with our limited authority as a special district, and we can't acquire, construct, improve, maintain, or operate childcare facilities. So we are focused just on the recreation facility at this time. At the same time, we recognize that the eventual closure of the existing preschool on the property will reduce the already scarce availability of full-time preschool and licensed childcare capacity on the mid-coast. At the February board meeting, the San Mateo County Supervisor Ray Mueller joined the public comment session and committed to working on addressing this capacity for the mid-coast in general, and asked for as much runway, in quotes, as we could provide him to work on solutions. Initially, we granted a 2-year lease to the preschool last September. Now that we could see our timelines for planning and permitting the CRC, we extended it through August 2024. The proposal from the PMT at this time, since we are just getting to the beginning of the CEQA process, is to extend the lease through May of 2025. We set it at the end of May because the preschool operator advised us that that really is the end of her school year, and that's a better end date for her. I think we also discussed, though, making sure that the terms allowed her to exit at any time, because that's our hope that she does find another facility. And of course, we would want to do whatever we could do to help facilitate her move when it's convenient for her. I'll stop there. We have two proposals for tonight. One is for the board to consider an extension of that lease through May of 2025, and then to authorize Group 4 to proceed to schematic design of the CRC, which was presented at our last meeting, and integrate that proposed CRC design with the park plan as a combined project to start project description for SECRA and other proposals. Other regulatory approvals.
And let me just add to your dialogue. So I did email Candace from Picasso Preschool. She responded to me and said, definitely interested in a lease extension through May of 2025. Want to discuss terms, obviously. And we've got a couple things we've got to deal with: sprinkler inspection, there's a leak in the roof, that kind of stuff. But she's interested through May 2025.
Okay, well, I will stop there and turn to the board for any questions for clarification before we go to public comments.
This is another 9 months. Are we sure this is not going to hold up the beginning of construction at either that parcel or on the park?
Can't be sure, but just my experience with permitting and so forth. And, don't forget that when we make it through the permitting process, then we have to go out to bid.
Right.
And that's all going to take a while. So I think
financing and grants and all kinds of things.
We will also have, when we're ready to talk about financing, a discussion on phasing.
Yeah.
And when we start the park versus when we start the CRC and how we phase those projects out. So it's something that probably we could control.
Well, I'm willing to go through May 2025, but no longer. This will be 10 and a half years after the district got Parks and Rec authority, and we need to show some progress. I was hoping that, because this is on the agenda, that there would be someone here who might address my other question, which is, do we know if the preschool owner or their customers, given that there's a crying need for preschool / childcare here on the coast, and it is a commercially viable, have any steps been taken by anyone to start another preschool, or are we going to hear the same thing in April of 2025 that there's no alternative for them and much more screaming and yelling?
I know of two efforts. One is that I do know that Candace has looked at other sites And she and I, in fact, discussed potentially the fire station. The zoning is a real difficulty, and the requirement for a really significant outdoor space for play space make it really difficult. But she is looking, and it's just probably going to be a matter of being very opportunistic when an appropriate site becomes available. I also am aware that Supervisor Mueller apparently is good to his word. I was in a meeting for a different something unrelated yesterday. I can tell you that the county executive seems to be all over looking at properties on the coast potentially for daycare. And so I just got a firsthand communications about Supervisor Mueller's follow-up on making that a priority.
Thank you. Good to know.
Barbara.
I have a question. I'm supporting this. I think this is fine. I want to give them as much time as possible. I actually talked to someone today who knows a lot about these issues, and they were talking about the fact that there is liability with respect to having something like this on our property. And do we have systems? I'm not saying that there's any problem. I'm just wondering, do we have the systems in place to make sure that the reports are coming through, that you know, we're not, are we doing what we should be doing as a responsible landlord to just verify that
Even with respect to the preschool and how it's operating,
Yes.
or whether it's compliant?
there's evidently a lot of issues around that. It's complicated, and you know, I think there's reports that have to be filed and so forth. Are we getting those? Do we know? Are we doing any kind of annual checkup on the operations to see if it's meeting whatever the requirements are? I'm not saying they're not, but I'm also saying that we own this building now, and we've taken on a responsibility. I just would like us to make sure we're taking whatever step is necessary to work with the operator to say, let's just make sure that all of the documentation of what's being done is thorough, and you know, we're getting what we need in that area.
But we wouldn't have to do anything more than any other landlord. I mean, another landlord wouldn't necessarily intervene on a preschool business to check their reporting or any of that. I wouldn't expect, right? So
I don't know.
That's Chuck and Bill.
And let's not ask Bill, because Bill will just say, let's not talk about liability issues in open session.
Sorry.
I'll say it for you. But we'll research that and get back to it.
Okay, this is not a big
It's a good
deal, it's
question,
just a
please.
question I wanted to raise. I'm not saying I want to, I think I'm sure they're doing a great job, but are we, because we've never been, you know, involved in this before, and obviously, given the constraints on us, we can only really do it in this temporary manner, continuing it. But let's just make sure that we're doing what we should be doing to collect whatever reports.
So we are not harboring something that is operating inappropriately.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's even overstating it, but just like to make sure that, you know, is there a yearly checklist? Is there something that we should be reviewing? I don't know, but
Yeah, inspections.
Well, yeah.
I don't know what we're gonna say.
Look at Bill.
Thank you, Jen. I'm going to echo what Chuck said. However, you know, our lease with them puts the responsibility on them for compliance with all federal, state, and local law.
Right.
So I want to be very clear that they are responsible for the operation and must maintain insurance. So.
so if there was an issue, we wouldn't get sued.
But there are checks.
What did I just?
There are checks you have to make sure the insurance is in place and things like that.
Correct.
Like I said.
That's all I'm asking
That's
for.
fine.
I mean, I'm not, in no way am I saying that this is not a perfectly well-run thing.
Just are we doing our part?
Are we doing our job?
Yeah.
Because this is something new to, you know, and now we're taking on yet longer time. So I make sure we have systems in place to make sure we're doing it right.
Very prudent.
Yeah, so we'll double check that.
Okay, that's
So
my comment.
I just have one, just to make sure clarifying points, like trying to find points. So we're saying till May of 2025, and then we're also saying that when we have the conversation around cadencing or sequencing of the build, that also may influence this conversation as well.
That could, the phasing discussion,
Depends.
it's because we haven't had it.
Right.
I assume may also affect timelines. And by the time we have that, you know, every step we take, we get a better sense of where the, you know, where the construction timeline starts. But we do need to have a significant financing and phasing discussion when we're ready to have the financing discussion.
Right. And I had that phasing discussion with, Kim Asbury at Horizon One, our CEQA environmental group. So, and we talked it all through, and you know, we'll mention timing, but it's not necessarily going to be what CEQA looks for is you look at the totality of the project, and we are looking at the totality of the project. So that's good news.
It's when we start talking about money that we want to start talking about things.
Right.
Yeah. I guess I would just ask that we are thoughtful in that, because there is there are families that are going to be impacted, that we think about phasing and all that as soon as we can in relationship to the May 2025 timeline, right? Because if there's a possibility that we decide to proceed with the park before the recreational center, then like we should let her know that, so that she could continue, that we can talk about extending or whatever, right?
In the loop on this stuff.
Yeah, I just because we're moving forward, I want to make sure like we're all aligned to that. If this is what we're moving forward with, and the community can feel confident that we're not, that we will continually do some checks and balances on this, right?
So you need
Okay, no, not yet. I'm going to open for public comments. If there are any members of the public who would like to comment on this agenda item, please raise your hand. Fran, Chuck will let you unmute yourself. There, you look unmuted. Go ahead, Fran.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first I want to welcome back Chuck. Good to see you again. And I just wanted to say that I'm glad to hear that that the child care group is looking to the Board of Supervisors, because that's who can help them. As I tried to explain at the last meeting, that we are a special district with limited services, and the board is where you go in this community, in the unincorporated area. The board is like our city council, and they're the ones that have to help us with everything else that we want. So Granada can only do sewer and park and recreation now. And everything else we all have to look to the board for help for anything we need. So I just wanted to say that. And good luck with the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Any other public comments?
So I've got, I don't know why they don't show up on the feed, but I've got Kate, Candace, and Sheridan. So I'm going to hit the Candace button.
Hi. Hi.
Hi, Candace.
Hi. Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for your consideration of extending the lease. But I do want to let Matthew know that, and I've stated this multiple times in these meetings, I've been looking for another location for years now. Ever since the GCSD, actually since Debbie Picasso listed the building for sale, I've been looking. Like Nancy said, zoning makes it almost impossible. We need parking spaces. We need outdoor space. Right now, there isn't any location. Anytime I find something that can work or that could work, it doesn't work for licensing. Anything that works for El Granada or Half Moon Bay, the city, the Coastal Commission, it doesn't work for licensing, vice versa. So I have been looking. And Barbara, we carry our own insurance, and we're inspected annually by the fire department, annually by state licensing. The school's been in business for almost, I think, 30 years now. I've been there for 22. We stay within compliance. We have little kids. We're taking care of children. So we're in all compliance. The things that's wrong with it are, there's a leak. There's things like that. But as far as staying in compliant insurance and stuff, it's not you that would be sued. We have our own insurance. So I wanted to say that, to put that out there.
And I want to
And that's part of the lease. Part of the lease agreement is for me to carry, this multi-million-dollar policy, which I do, and we do stay compliant for everything.
Great. Thank you, Candace.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now I've got Sheridan.
Hi there. Thank you for opening the floor and taking some comments. I heard you guys mention that you wouldn't want to go beyond May 2025, and I understand and completely appreciate how long this project has been in limbo. The one thing that I would ask you to consider in that is the timing of alternative childcare options. So typically enrollment for other childcare options, say Candace, and I really hope she does, and I will do everything in my power to help her. I will write letters. I will do anything I can to help Candace find a new location. But say she doesn't find a new location where it's a really seamless transition, that means that you're going to have a lot of families that are left in the lurch. And typically enrollment for other programs doesn't open until the August-September timeframe. So you guys are looking at May 2025 to end the lease. I know that Candace would need some time to move out all of the accessories that come with running a preschool. And so I just ask that you guys consider potentially taking into consideration the fact that if you end the lease in May and if Candace has to move everything out in April, then you're going to be leaving a lot of families that have a gap of potentially finding alternative care for about 4 months to say the September-ish, August-September timeframe. So good night, sweetie. Sorry. It's bedtime over here. So if you were considering extending the lease, I would ask that you consider the timing of other childcare options and maybe think of more September 2025. I understand that you don't want to delay this project any further, but 3 to 4 extra months could mean a big difference for families. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sheridan. I just want to say that we had one director say they wouldn't want to go beyond May 2025, but we will revisit timelines when we talk phasing, as we said. Also, we switched it from August to May at Candace's request. It was her request that we finished at the end of May, so if she's transitioning, she would have the summer to do that. But we got continue, routine conversations and updates with Candace as we get closer.
Okay, thank you.
And now we've got Frederick Anderson.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm coming kind of late to this, and I don't know if this is even the appropriate place to bring it up, but has there been a final approval of a final plan for the development of the park and everything at this point?
No, a final approval, no. We have not been permitted or anything like that.
The reason I bring it up is because I live right here in El Granada, right on Burnham Strip, right next to it, right across from Picasso, and a lot of the neighbors here have varying ideas as to what it's even going to be looking like. Last mailing I got was a couple of years ago, and I looked at it and I said, yeah, that looks pretty good. And then there's some other plans that came up after that, and I said, well, they're kind of expanding everything a little bit. It's looking like it's getting bigger, which is something that always seems to happen. But I guess what I'm asking for is there some way that you can kind of keep the residents here apprised as to what things look like? I mean, some people have parking lots and playgrounds and stuff like that right by their homes, and other people have it where things are now. So there seems to be some discrepancy as to what people are believing this project's going to look like.
Thank you, Frederick. We do have on our website, granada.ca.gov, on the parks page, there is a overview picture of the park, it has not migrated much from that, but we will be having, I think at our next meeting, and a fuller update on the park. So if you want to come third Thursday next month, we'll have an update on the full park plan.
But we did share the renderings for the rec center last month.
Yeah.
Are those in the notes from the meeting last month?
No, but now if we approve that tonight, we'll put that presentation up on the website for the community recreation center. It's just that we haven't approved something yet. The park plan, master plan has been approved, so it is up on the website.
And I just set our website on the chat to everybody.
Okay,
So you
thanks.
can look at that.
And just one more thing, which is that the park plan is still pretty consistent with the earlier version. It has been changed a little bit. Also on our website is the timeline. It shows all the newsletters we've sent, all the meetings that we've held and so forth. If you're interested in that, we really have tried to keep everyone engaged and involved in what we're doing. So, but join us for the next meeting and you'll see it's not the final plan. It's the plan, just as what we're talking about tonight for the recreation center. It's the plan that we will be submitting to the county for the whole sequence of the approval process, which is the Environmental Quality Act, all kinds of, we're going to have a coastal development permit. And through that process, everyone will have additional opportunities to comment. So that's probably going to take a year or so. We have, things are coming together to submit that to the county, but it's a long process, but we've made good progress so far, and we're about to make a big step, which is to submit a plan to the county for further review and comment.
Okay, thank you, Fred and Chuck. We have.
I've got one more. I've got Kate.
Hi, Kate. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I just want to say thank you for finally being reasonable. And for what seems like the first time since I started attending these meetings, thank you for actually considering the impact that displacing this preschool would have on this community. And I am really seeing a different tone with all of you tonight, and I greatly appreciate it. It means a lot for people who care a lot about this community. But again, why are we still not considering a preschool to be included in the rec center when that was the most voiced request from the community survey? I sincerely ask that you pause on that effort to approve any proposed plan that's on the table that doesn't include a preschool until that's fully been vetted and off the table. Thank you.
We actually in the agenda pack, if you look online tonight, what happened between the October and February meetings was a good deep dive into what our authorities are as a special district. And the result of that was that we confirmed we simply don't have the authority to do childcare. It's not within our authority for recreation. And that really, we already didn't feel we had space. The zoning is only for public use. We already have a cost issue that may phase and make it very difficult to do that. But the bottom line is that as a sewer, trash, and recreation district, we don't have the authority to do childcare. There is a memo from our council in the agenda pack that explains that in pretty great detail. But we can't include it because we don't have the authority to do childcare. We can do early childhood programs. We can do any sorts of programs for preschool kids that don't involve the need for a licensed childcare facility.
She re-raised her hand.
Kate, go ahead.
What about the things that Jill was proposing in the last meeting regarding changing? I don't remember what it's called, but your mission, or I don't remember the exact terminology that was used. That was filed with the state.
Yeah, it's actually a agency called the Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, and they granted us these powers to get the Parks and Recreation powers. It took us about 10 years. It's not a simple agreement that you just amend. It's an entire process that takes a very long time. and you don't know what the outcome will be. So it's not quite as simple as amending an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, between that and all of our other limitations, we do need to move forward to get the whole project moving to our secret review. So that's why our proposal is tonight to move with the design that we have. Let me come back to Candace.
Hi, I just have a quick question. And you may have answered this, I don't know. But I know you've had the parkland for many years. Why has the community center become the priority rather than the actual parkland if you've had it for so much longer than the building?
Both the park plan has been in constant work since 2018. We started developing the park plan, and at this point, a lot of engineering and things were done, adding to the plan over the last year, and it is ready for secret review. We're just looking to join the recreation center plan with it to go through that whole pretty elaborate CEQA and permitting process with both projects together. So we've been working on we haven't been ignoring the park while we've been looking at the preschool. They've been going in tandem for the last 2 years.
Kate's got her hand back up.
Kate, we are going to move on. So if you have something quick, go ahead.
Oh, apologies. I don't think I lowered my hand.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
That might be me.
That might have been shot.
No,
We're new at the webinar thing.
she has to do it.
We need two
I can do
separate
it.
motions.
Oh, you
Yeah.
do it.
Right.
Right. We need, so we'll move on to any further discussion from the board.
I'm ready to make a motion to support item 1, consideration of lease extension for the Picasso preschool until June
May 2025.
2025.
Through.
Through May 2025.
Through May of 2025, and then I'd like to speak to the second one, but,
Well, that's it. Okay.
and then further discussion.
Any further discussion on the first motion? Seeing none, Chuck, let me do a roll call.
Do we still do roll call? I guess we're in the webinar.
You don't have to do roll call because Director Grant is not.
Oh, so we can just do ayes and nays?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
All right, motion carries 4-0. Director Grant absent.
Director Dye, you wanted to have a comment on the second one?
Yes, I have something I want to say about it. It feels as if we already took the public comment on the second item as well as the first item.
Yeah, we were only doing public comment on the,
Yeah.
I introduced it before the public comment.
Yeah. Right. I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I have a few things I want to say. Tonight, I'm prepared to vote to move forward with the recreation center design from Group 4 as our project description for CEQA review, without provision for licensed daycare. This is not an easy vote, and I want to acknowledge that there are families adversely affected by this decision. It has been a challenge to balance the needs of those families against the needs of the 6,000 residents of the Granada Community Services District. Before we take this vote, I want to make the following points. It was only after months of failed negotiations between the preschool business owner and potential preschool operators that GCSD moved forward with purchasing the building for use by the community. I understand that there is a real need for licensed daycare on the coast side, and I hope that together the community can come up with a solution, working with the county and other resources. We have continued the preschool lease while the project is under review to allow families to find time to find other alternatives. And we hope Candace and these folks can be part of the other alternative that comes up. GCSD purchased the building to develop a community recreation center to meet the goals identified in the many years of outreach we have done to involve our residents in fulfilling the vision of those who work so hard to convert the sanitary district to a community services district. And a call out to Fran who's on this call. Those who are interested can see a timeline of the work that has been done on our website. I am proud of the efforts that we've made to consult with our community regarding the options for the project and the thoughtful way we have proceeded. One factor important to me that has not been mentioned enough is that this building will be a recreation center right on the park property. A park-based community center will provide additional security for the park, and staff will be available to manage the programs and deal with any issues. The building will also serve as an emergency support center, something we've needed badly in recent years. Community members will be able to sign up for classes or reserve a room, and then come together as a community to take those classes or hold meetings all in one place. It will become the heart of our community and a community hub. Finally, I make this decision while thinking about the 6,000 people who live in the GCSD area. I want to have a recreation center that will benefit the largest number of people possible. I want to see exercise classes in one room while bridge games are going on in the other, oil painting in one with first aid classes in the other, an infant play group in one room while there's a book club meeting in the other, homework help in one with citizenship classes in the other. If we as a board vote yes to approve the plan, the community center design will be integrated into the park plan, which will then be submitted to the county for review and approval. That process will allow further public comment and input from the community. I hope that the feedback will be constructive and courteous. In conclusion, I recognize that this will disappoint some people. I'm sorry about that. As board members, we are volunteers charged with using our best judgment to serve this community. All the residents, young, old, and in between. I take this vote seriously, and tonight I'm voting yes to move forward with the community center design. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Any other comments from the board?
Other than that, I couldn't agree more with Director Vidal.
It was really well said.
Thank you. I've been thinking a lot about this, and I really care about it. It's a hard one, but I just wanted to put it all down.
I actually should acknowledge that that you were one of the two board members who insisted that we evaluate whether we could include a child care center.
Yeah,
so I know
we
it was
could have, I would.
not an easy decision.
I want to say as a newer of the board members, that I feel the pain of everyone involved in this situation and the tension and the struggle that we're finding ourselves in. My main priority, as I stated last month, remains the same, which is to ensure that we have a runway. And I'm really proud of the fact that we have found a pathway to that runway for the community. And that's the only reason that I really feel comfortable proceeding. I also want to stress again that I think there's opportunity for us to consider, again, further being thoughtful around, sequencing and cadencing of the bills so that we can think about the park versus the center, et cetera, just to determine what makes the most sense for us as a board and our commitment to our broader community, but also to the commitment of for the families as well that we're serving. So I don't feel like we have an alternative other than the runway. And so that's why I feel comfortable in an uncomfortable situation proceeding.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Okay, any other further comment? I would only echo Barbara's comments. Can we proceed to the motion?
I will move that we authorize Group 4 to proceed with the schematic design of the Community Recreation Center as presented at the February 23rd board meeting, and we move forward with the CEQA process.
As a complete process.
Integrating the proposed community, basically moving what it says here.
Yeah.
After
Right.
consideration of, yes.
For clarification, you're not approving the project, you're just
No.
approving this as the project description.
Right.
Yes.
Correct.
We have a second? I'll second. I don't know how to do.
Yeah.
And any further comment? Not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries 4-0. Director Grant, you pass.
Right, thank you, and I want to thank the members of the preschool community who have come to many meetings to express your point of view. I know it's during dinner time and bath time and bedtime. I really appreciate you being engaged in the public process.
Yes.
Even if we haven't always agreed or haven't always come with the outcome you want, I think that the public engagement is really important, and thank you for being here and providing a view. It's important. Move on to The next agenda item, which is consideration of a resolution authorizing.
Report on Burnham Park.
Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara, go ahead.
That's okay.
The report on Burnham Park.
There's not a lot to report right now. I know that our landscape architect is fine tuning some of the details and working out all the drainage things and so forth. Our CEQA consultants have started work. They were here today to do the first biological review. So it's getting started. We'll
Yes,
see
they were authorized for biological and I think archaeological.
So things
I
are
was
gonna
told they
start.
might have a visit from a certain board member.
Yeah, they might. I can, I would like to comment that, we had a public comment that the project seems to have grown and, I think when the public sees the new plans, I hope they will realize that the park project has actually shrunk some because, the, effects on Obispo Avenue have been, more or less eliminated.
Scaled back a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll move on to the next item. Consideration of resolution authorizing the District 457 retirement plan. We had a first discussion of this plan when we reviewed the personnel manual changes last time. So the resolution is attached in the agenda.
Yes, this is just enacting what your board made a broader policy decision on last meeting. So this is the actual resolution.
Yeah. Any comments on the board?
Seems reasonable to me. In this day and age, we have to provide health insurance for our employees and sufficient to give them adequate health insurance.
Oh, no, this is about the deferred compensation plan with matching. So this is more like a retirement.
It's basically a government version of the 401k.
401k.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we approved the health insurance last time.
Okay, I thought this was a.
Oh, I was just gonna say, this is a deferred compensation plan that provides a match up to $2,000, but I want to mention it is only, the way the board approved it last month was it's specifically for exempt employees, which means that our non-exempt employee would not be able to participate, but that's really up to the district. It's not, does not have anything to do with this resolution. This resolution is a generic resolution that's required for adoption. If the board wants to make any changes to who can participate in the 457, we can do that within our personnel manual. So just so you know.
Okay.
Move approval.
Okay, can we move
I have
a resolution with support of allowing non-exempt employees to join?
I would be perfectly happy to allow non-exempt employees. I didn't remember that distinction from last meeting. I thought it was employees, full stop.
Yeah.
Yes.
That could be part of the motion.
I just would like public comment, ask if there's any public comment on this.
Yes, before we go to, before we make the motion. But I think you were gonna bring this in.
Yeah, I have a question. The fourth paragraph down in the resolution says the board has appointed Voya Financial as the plan record keeper. What's that cost?
It doesn't cost anything. The employees who participate pay a very small percentage out of their contributions for the administration. I think it's like 1 or 2%. We hope.
Okay. Do you know if Voya Financial's been doing this for a long time? What if that changes?
I don't know the history, but it is a part of CalPERS. We actually will pay for make these contributions along with our regular retirement plan. So I have a feeling that they do quite a few agencies. In fact, I think Sam may have the same plan. They're 457, and a lot of the other agencies here on the coast use CalPERS because it is so easy to make the contributions, basically. So I don't foresee any changes in there. This is meant to be a plan that benefits the employees pay for it. It does not cost the employer at all, except for the match. But as far as administering the plan, there are no costs to the employer.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Do we have any public comment on this agenda item? This is basically a 401k for the district employees.
No hands.
Seeing no hands raised, We have a motion to authorize this resolution for the District 457 retirement line, and I would like to say inclusive of exempt and non-exempt employees.
Did you make a motion? Or
Yeah, if somebody can say so moved.
so moved? Okay. Do it.
So moved.
You do it, 'cause I do so many of the motions.
Do we have a second?
Second. Oh,
Go ahead.
Matthew. Yeah, let Matthew do it.
Okay, Randall and Clark. Any further comment? All in
I'm glad
favor?
we're encouraging retirement savings. I think it's a great thing.
I think it's great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries 4-0.
Because we only.
In person, we didn't have roll call. Unless Leonard called for it. If
Unless
you
he
want to
wanted
do
to-
Leonard, you could do that.
Okay,
Love Leonard.
moving on. I set myself a goal to, not go until 11 o'clock tonight, so. Yes. Sam has a rule that they have to have a vote if they go after 9 o'clock, I think we might consider.
We used to have the same rule. I did away with it.
Oh, really?
We just go.
Just go
We
anyway.
kept going past the time, and then we'd have to have a motion and a vote. It's like, this is silly.
It's still gonna go.
It doesn't stop anyone.
All right, item number 3, consideration of agreement with Demos Search to conduct executive search for the assistant general manager position. The
So-
recommendation to be made by the board, Chuck.
Yes, so as you all know, Delia, after, I think you said 24 years? It'll be 24. Yeah, 24 years, is retiring come June 30th, and we are searching. She's done a fantastic job for the district, and she wears many hats as its job. Must wear many hats, laughing at my district down south and doing a finance meeting in the morning and a landscape walkthrough and a solar meeting. So you gotta juggle a lot of stuff and kind of a difficult position to fill. So I contacted a bunch of people up here. Everyone's very busy on this stuff. And then I contacted Laura Demos Search, who I actually know. Our kids went to high school together, so I know her down there. And Nancy and I conducted a Zoom meeting with her, and Nancy was impressed with her qualifications and whatnot as was I, and I think she's doing a great job for us. So I'd recommend that your board enter into this agreement with Demo Search.
I would only add that the fee is consistent with what Chuck heard from all of the other search firms that he talked to. They were all in the range of 25,000. Laura actually usually charges more. She charges a percent of the
25%
of the salary, and Chuck
said no.
Said no. and she agreed, as apparently they are good enough friends. She agreed to do this search for us for 25,000, since that's what we heard from others. I do think it's important, as I said to Chuck, that we not only put out ads for whoever is perusing ads, but the value of search, particularly for a key position, we only have a couple, like this, that really is the face of the district locally, looking for what we call passive candidates who are doing a great job in similar sorts of work, but maybe not perusing ads, because they may not be unhappy where they are, but they might be a perfect fit for us, is really the purpose of doing research, and going beyond, simply, sometimes you put ads out and you get the perfect person, but it's sort of like depending on luck.
Right.
And luck is not a strategy. So this just gives us another lane of looking for candidates that meet our qualifications. She also will screen all candidates, anybody who's interested, so that Chuck will just get the final few that have already been pre-vetted.
How soon will we have the job description out? I'm feeling very much like.
You've said this a couple times. I sent it to you.
No, but that was
March.
nobody's not putting that out yet. I mean, I've been told that that's still.
So I have the new one, so I'll send that out to you.
Well, we were waiting
I
to.
checked on it. I thought I sent it to you.
We were waiting to approve this before we put up ads.
Right.
So Laura was cleaning up and
she's
doing
done that.
doing her bit on that. So now that we.
I was told that it wasn't for circulation. And so now, do we have one that's ready to go?
Yes, we do.
But
I can send that to your board tonight.
Okay, and we'll will either you or Laura take care of getting it out into the ad
Or,
sphere?
well, I'll work with her, but
Okay.
yes, that's her job too.
And are you planning to use like Indeed.com and stuff like that, or?
Covering all bases.
Great.
Yep. And like I said, in here, there's specific stuff you all have never heard of, jobs available and whatnot, BC Water jobs that's specific, that they actually get mailed to, jobs available to pamphlet, and they mail it to the cities and counties and agencies.
Amazing.
And
She also
people
mentioned
generally scour them and get
Maybe we
raises.
have hope.
LinkedIn, Indeed, but
Yes.
even the local papers, next.
Yeah. We're covered all bases.
All over the
Yeah,
places.
yes.
And I'm hoping there's someone in this community who's, you know, whose kids are just going off to high school and they have the time and they have the executive experience, but they, you know, it'd be really great to find somebody looking for this challenge, qualified.
Well, we have.
It's a great help.
We do have hope.
Not challenge, opportunity.
Yes.
What is the board's function in this? Or,
The board's
I mean,
function will be-
if when she finds a great candidate, are we just going to say, okay, that's that, we'll hire this person?
No, what's gonna happen is if we narrow this down to whatever it may be, 1, 2, 5, whatever the narrowing down is, we'll do in-person interviews, and I don't want to be the only person interviewing, because you need other perspectives, obviously, so it'll be myself, probably Nancy, the board president, one all of you, or all of you, if you would like, quite honestly. It's up to your board to decide that, but I'm definitely not gonna be the only interviewee.
My ask would just be that we have a consistent group that sees all of them, right? So like, it's not like, you know, Matt sees one and I see one, like, it needs to be like.
And yeah, this is your complete discretion, you know, if any of you email me and say, hey Chuck, are we down to 5 finalists? And I'll say, yeah, and I'll send you the resumes, or if you wanna tell me to do that now, I'll do that now. Yeah.
I like to be on the interview panel.
Yeah, I do too.
Laura and I discussed doing, something I used to do, which is basically a group interview where it's a panel that interviews a person all at the same time. So they don't see each person individually, where they might have all different conversations. Then you have a hard time joining up, but you might have 4 people, you know, on a Zoom with the candidate who each ask their own questions, which gives you real benefit hearing what other people's questions are, hearing their answers to other people's questions you might not have thought of. Laura was in complete agreement with that approach, which gives you lots of different interviewer perspectives, and the person has to respond to lots of different interviewer perspectives. And it's very efficient
It's
time-wise.
efficient, and the reality is you all will be working with this person, you know, well, obviously, so it's important. You know, this place isn't so big, we're not running in the city of San Mateo or something, so you all be in here, yeah, so I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I was, you know, recruited for a fairly high level job, and, you know, talked to the key people, but then I sat at the end of a table with the key people from the place, and they just, it was partly interview. They asked questions, but it was also sort of somewhat conversation. So they got a sense of who I was and what I was about, and I really like that. And I think we could replicate something like that. And so I think we all want to be part of it.
Okay.
It's a big decision for us because we have such limited staff. So.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's half the staff up here.
Yes. Any further questions from the board? Any, go ahead, Deanna.
How many weeks or months am I gonna have to train somebody? That's what I'm concerned about.
As much as possible.
The sooner we go, the sooner.
Right, so we're not waiting for anything, sir.
Okay.
As soon as we get the right person in the door, as much time as we can get to download. Do we have any comments from the public on this?
No hands up.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Dye, second by Clark. Any further comments from the board? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? None.
Motion carries 4-0. Grant S.
Okay. Next item, item 4, is the engineer's report. Mr. Duffy.
So John has just given us an update on the 6-year CIP project. I understand you talked about this at the last meeting when it was not here. I'm going to be talking to John about if we need to add any more sewer main to that replacement, because there was one section that was sketchy, and I have to figure out what sketchy means.
It wasn't sketchy. It was not as critical as the other.
Yeah, he recommended that they be done at the Columbus and Ferdinand at the same time, and that actually is a T-junction, and they had a manhole in common. But maybe it was just because it was very efficient to do it that way, but if there wasn't budget, then Ferdinand could wait. We only had a proposal to vote on the first one, on Columbus.
Yeah.
But if he recommends that we come back and vote on Ferdinand.
Actually, it was in Princeton. The other one was in Princeton.
No, there was the third one. That he did recommend waiting for the CIP because it's too much flow right now to do that one.
Yeah. It was West Point, on West Point.
West Point, yeah.
Okay.
So we can't extend this to include Ferdinand tonight?
It's an $89,000 spend, something like that.
It's just a report.
Yeah, but we have at the top of our thing, we can take action on anything. Board is ready to take action on any items listed on the agenda, which is why I always feel free to put board information, but yeah.
This year was really something on last month's agenda.
I mean, is it urgent that we do it tonight?
They're working on the project at Columbus now, the adjacent project. He said in this report it would be done in early April, so looks like they would be pulling out of there before our next meeting.
Could we declare that it is that the board is in agreement that this project should proceed and that we will vote on it at our next meeting? Is that going to be good enough for the contractor?
Yeah, I mean, we could also.
Can we do that, or is that just?
We could hold a special meeting, because
Don't you look at it?
next week, make life easy and just vote on it. It'll be one item, 2-minute meeting, more comfortable with that. I could tell them to go ahead, and as long as don't fire me.
I'm quite comfortable just doing a 10-minute Zoom to approve it if that's the appropriate process for a special meeting.
More comfortable with that.
Well, it wouldn't be a Zoom.
You have to be in person.
Can't do Zoom, that's right. And so, well, you all could meet, you don't need me to
You could be on Zoom.
advise
Yes,
you.
he could be on
I
Zoom.
guess. But
Yeah, you too. Yeah, you can be on Zoom.
Yeah.
We would have to come here.
Yeah, and the agenda item is engineers report recommendation for board information, so.
I hear you.
Okay, so I'll talk to John tomorrow, get his input, and I'll let you all know.
Okay.
And we need to have a special meeting.
We just need a quorum. We just need 3 of us.
I also wanted to comment on the end of the report where he talks about the meeting with the member agencies engineers about the RFP for the engineering services for the replacement of Sam's Montero Force Main. It says it's been issued to 10 engineering firms as of our SAM meeting on Monday. 7 of those 10 firms have declined.
The only person who submitted was SRT.
Oh, we're not.
You're gonna have to bring us in on the
And-
joke.
and, there's history there. So SRT has been the longtime SAM engineer, SRT consultants, and they're also the longtime Montero engineer. We've actually used them a couple of times. I've used both Montero's and Half Moon Bay. And Half Moon Bay doesn't really like SRT, and Montero doesn't really like Half Moon Bay's lawyer, engineer. So it's just kind of funny. They sent out NRPs to engineer this thing, and they got one guy.
We had meetings recently where Half Moon Bay says, well, okay, we can do this, but no, you shouldn't hire SRT. And at one of the meetings I said, no, you keep saying that, but maybe you would do us the courtesy of giving us a reason. And they're like, well, they wrote this report a long time ago that was wrong. And it doesn't make any sense. And the SAM people say that SRT is the most, has the most experience, has written these. Did they do the Granada Force Main?
I think they did.
Yeah, I mean.
And this is a pipeline replacement.
Right.
But you go in there and just tell the contractor, when we do this, we used to do drawings, and then we finally said, "What are you doing?" There's a manhole here, a manhole here. Put the new pipe in between them.
Captain Bay also said that the SRT designed the force main up at my heart that just failed. So
What, 30 years ago?
yeah, and
And
what they did, I don't understand because they didn't really give any kind of a real reason. And what they're voting against is faster and cheaper, right? Because that's what the SAM staff said was, if we just use SRT, it'll be faster and cheaper. So, and I don't know, Half Moon Bay, well, God, we can't have that.
And they
You
keep
know?
saying it too. It's in more than one meeting. They've said no SRT, no
That's
SRT.
right.
And that's why we laughed, because now it's, what's they gonna do? They're gonna hold it all up? I mean, just, anyway, so
Why have the other 7 declined?
I know.
they're busy.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know, but
Oh, okay.
I think there's a lot of
Demand right now.
contracting work out there.
Well, right, and my engineering group is on the other side. Obviously, they're responding to these, and a lot of time there's a lot of reasons. Like you said, there's a lot of work. Some people don't like working with other people. Sometimes, if an engineering firm has been entrenched, like SRT has at SAM, they say, I'm going to go spend $5,000 and 40 man hours to get a proposal to loose. And they just say no.
Somehow I bet Hepburn was trying to get some other ones to answer to, because they were so adamant over multiple meetings that, anybody that SRT. So.
Yeah, they're quite adamant.
Before we leave this, if it's something for information, do I still open for public comment? Sorry, I'm still new at this.
Yes.
So just checking before we move on, because I promised Matthew that I would give equal time to sewers that we give to Parks and Recreation in the future, because I thought you made a very good point about that, and I saw your clarification at the SAM meeting also. 70% of what we spend, we should spend more time on it. But any public comment on the engineer's report? Seeing no hands up, we'll move to, that actually is a good thing to do, is put the participant list so we can see the hands now too. Jason popped it up there. We'll move on to report on Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side meetings. Director Dine, Director Clark.
You go ahead, Matthew, first.
I'll try not to make this take as much time as we just did, but first, Greg Diaz at the Mid-Coast Community Council has been pressing, probably other people are aware of this, for an explanation of what happened, not only at the, he wants to go back to October and then December of 2021 and get a better explanation of what happened, why that emergency took place, and how it could have been prevented. And now this latest one, that was the
What was that emergency?
New Year's. There was the October was the BOD.
Oh, okay.
December 21 was December 13th, big storm.
Big storm.
He's focusing on, there seemed to be a surge, and on New Year's Eve, there was this sudden surge 2 hours before, in the 2 hours before, it went from like 11 to 17 million gallons per second over a very short time. And he said he's never had an explanation for that surge.
Right, and I at SAM have been asking, and we were told we would get a forensic type report on this New Year's Eve and subsequent problems and emergencies that are going to, I'm sure we're up over $1.25 million on costs for the damages and the repairs. And we did not, it was promised the second meeting for February, and instead at the first meeting in March, we voted to let the general manager find somebody to do such a report. So,
but Debbie Reddick and I both said, but you have to bring it back to us. You can't, he kept saying, but that'll slow things down. We're like, no, bring it back to us how much you're going to spend and who you're going to get to do it.
And we discussed this. So before every SAM meeting, we have a managers meeting, Montero, myself, and Heaven Bay, Kishin at SAM. And we discussed this at length, and I kept saying, I don't want the SAM board to direct us on what report we need. You all are the engineers. Let you engineers tell us, you know, and myself obviously too, what we're looking for. Because doing a report forensic, it rained a lot. I don't need forensics for that. The plant's next to the creek and the creek spilled into the plant. I don't need forensics for that. If we're looking at I&I, which is inflow and infiltration. So inflow is the stuff that seeps in from the top, and people have their rain gutters illegally hooked up to the sewer system and all this kind of stuff, and they don't know any better. And then infiltrations from groundwater. Solving that problem, next time I meet someone to solve that problem, be the first time I meet someone. That's just the nature of telling Barbara this, you know, manhole's this big and it's got a manhole picks hole this big. You wouldn't think much of that unless it's underwater and you're shooting a stream in, and it's like, okay, that's 5 gallons a minute times 950 manholes, and that's just the manhole pick, you know. So my recommendation at that meeting, sounds like you guys did the same thing, is figure out what we're studying, because we're studying I&I. There's no study. There's a lot of I&I. You know, what's the best way to resolve that? Well, if there's 950 manholes, there's 1,000 sticks with how many joints of pipe in between each manhole. So solving I&I is you try and control it, try and find the big stuff if you can. It doesn't always happen. It very rarely happens that you find something egregious like, you know, we had one where the guy had a lateral that literally went through the creek to our sewer main on the other side. 4-inch pipe, it broke. We had the creek flowing into the 4-inch pipe. You know, you're lucky then. It's like, hey, I just found 100,000 gallons a day of I&I, but the odds of that, you know, I've done studies at every district I've ever been at. So that, you know, death by 1,000 cuts, more or less.
Chuck, then the graph that when I spoke to Greg, he was referring to was the sort of hourly rate of million gallons per second, which over the course of that December 31st evening was slowly going up and then suddenly went up. Now I know that there were about 4 hours during that night when we were getting like more than a quarter of an inch of rain an hour. And it's actually times on the 31st.
This is the hourly graph.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, I love this graph.
And so it was that surge up, but I can see at the rate the rain was falling, since you noted the manhole covers, that I suppose that's the question I'd like to answer to it is if the rain was really falling at that sort of rate so that it couldn't even run off, it's just in pools everywhere, could you have that, you know, fairly sudden jump in?
Well, and that might point to a big source, like a 4-inch lateral in a creek bed. But, you know, now...
Or something coming from Pillar Cedars Creek.
Well, what do we have? We probably have 100 miles of sewer main and another 30 miles of laterals, right? Not to mention roof drains, you know. I tell a story all the time of when I ran Ramona. They had the entire Navy housing complex hooked up to the sewer. So when it rained, the entire parking lot and all the houses and all the basin drained into the sewer. And, you know, again, like I can call that lucky because we could point to one thing, but it's a big problem. But
the big burst, there's been what I'll call an unverified assertion that San Francisco PUC was worried about the Stone Dam Reservoir way up Pillar Cedars Creek, and they let a bunch of water out all at once. And I don't think this has been verified, but that's one of the items that's in the supposed to be in the report that was okayed by the city board.
And that was the story I was told, I think at the managers meeting, and it was basically the PUC said, don't release water, don't release water, don't release water, and it rained so much, they didn't release it, it just went out the spillway at some point in time.
It's a really old dam, too. It's like 100 years old, supposedly, right?
Yeah, Catherine Slater Carter said it's 160 years old.
Wow.
And if they get a straight answer about SFPUC, then PUC will have changed their entire personnel. But,
I wish you were shy, man. Tell us what you really felt about this.
yeah,
Yes, like, I've worked in government too long.
I directly for them a few times. Anyway, I also asked at the last meeting about, I don't know if it's integral or integral consulting is doing a flood model for the SAM plant, which I said practically the same thing that you just said, Chuck, at a previous meeting at SAM, that, well, it rains a lot, and that means a lot of water comes into the plant. How's that for a model? You know,
I made the same joke at our last meeting.
Yeah.
We can end the modeling session. We know what happens when it rains like that.
So what are we going to get out of this report that these folks have been working on for 5 months now? And there's no expected deadline yet that I heard. But I was happy to hear that included in this model will be a clear outline of what red flag conditions are, when the plant and the personnel have to get ready, because here A, B, and C are stacked up, and you have to be ready for it. There also will be opinions expressed on major work that needs to be done to various systems and equipment at the plant, and recommendations how to adapt the facility for high water over the next several decades, I believe it is. So this will be a useful document, we hope. I hope it doesn't just disappear onto the shelves. So many do.
I joined the SAM meeting mostly to watch that presentation, and it was interesting that they took what really happened on December 31st and tested their model against it, and their model came up with the same thing that happened. So it was December 31st gave them a reasonable validation of their model. But I was interested in the list of things that may be recommended depending on where all their modeling comes out, included, at the last resort, managed retreat.
Yes, managed retreat. That's always the last resort, isn't it?
Which is a phrase I won't forget. But they'll probably say you should build a wall that Chuck said 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Which Pippin suggested this time. It was we should build a next retreat. You get a wall around the electrical building.
And Half Moon Bay's representative brought up this needs to include a groundwater study, and the consultant basically said that's built in, sort of assumed, but and wasn't more specific about how they thought that would be integrated into their report. We're still getting these kinds of notes about the storm event. This is from the October 2021 report, or summary, that the more IPS wet weather storage is needed than was agreed in 2020. So Sam may be coming back, it won't get my vote, but to say that other 200,000 gallons of storage that was originally proposed for the Burnham Strip is now needed. So we have to keep an eye on that, because we're going to build a park out there. And
so if they're going to do it, they got to do it fast.
Yeah, if they're going to do it, they have to do it fast.
Well,
but as I noted at the time, that they shut off all the flow so that we had spills up here, and the force main at Montara broke, and they still had overflows when it's only Half Moon Bay flow going into the plant. So why do we need more wet weather storage here when Half Moon Bay has none? And
there's something in Coastside Buzz, I tipped to Michelle, even though she signed off.
I sent it to her.
That One Shoreline's concept design report for Half Moon Bay it caught my eye because it said Half
Yes.
Moon Bay Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side, as if Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side is a department at Half Moon Bay. But they're studying the plot of land directly next to the plant that Half Moon Bay owns. And I downloaded it, I tried to scan it, but I thought, are they thinking of putting a wet weather storage facility there?
It's more a kind of wetland, to develop a wetland, which isn't a terrible idea, but this would be, something like if you had high flows, you could divert water into. But the weird thing is, Debbie Brenner claims she never heard of it. She's the vice chair of One Water, and it was
One
done,
Shoreline, yeah.
One Shoreline, and it was done a year ago, and nobody's heard anything about it. Catherine Sider Carter sent it to me, and then I sent it to Michelle. But it's kind of interesting, this proposal. And that area is already a Caltrans mitigation site, evidently, which I don't know the details of.
Right, I, at least only became aware of that, in the last couple months, that Caltrans has already built a, wetlands as mitigation for some work elsewhere.
They haven't, it's done a wetland.
It's done, yes.
But it's on the other side of the creek.
Right, it's on the other side of the creek.
No, it's on the same side as the creek, as the plant.
Is it?
Yes. I go bird there all the time. It's a big birding site.
Oh.
So
it's between the creek and the plant?
It's more like next to the plant.
So the gist of what I understand is they lowered the elevation there so that can fill up with more water.
But it doesn't.
And it's right next to the plant.
Yeah.
And I don't, I don't think Caltrans consulted with anybody that we know of about doing that.
And they planted all these trees that are supposed to, remove water. And now, in the drought, they're mostly dead.
Yeah, they got drowned.
No, in the drought, they died of water because they're supposed to be the kind that need water and suck it up. And, it's supposed to be mitigation. I don't know.
Well, you've been out there, what are they, willows?
No.
They're dead trees.
High is after
You get a little warblers.
I already mentioned this before, the Half Moon Bay had a study done saying that they couldn't possibly put out more than 12.5 million gallons at any given time of flow because that's the size of their system. And I am pushing Sam, and Sam's already been doing this, to get that report and see what it actually says. And the Mid-Coast Council has made a formal request sent to Sam and our board of directors and MWSD that a study be done, an engineering study be done on the causes of those excess flows and or the design solutions to remedy them. So it's not just the loud people at the Sam meetings who want to ask for how can we find out what really went on and why? Because it's never been quite explained. And then
and that proposal is supposed to come back to the SAM board now in 2 weeks to say what is the scope, is more detailed scope, and how much is it going to cost, rather than just like, sure, whatever it costs, do whatever.
Yeah. And then Tim Costello, who's he's the
lead plant operator.
Lead plant operator, manager. Operations manager, yeah. He essentially runs the SAM plant. He writes a detailed day-by-day summary of every month that goes into the SAM packet. And the one for January, I went through and counted how many times words like failure, wouldn't work, didn't start, the fluid pump failed, SCADA not working, pump 3 not running, pump 3 running but not pumping, and bar screen fail, also screw conveyor fail. I went through and read this over again, and on the 31 days of January, there are 26 comments like that. That this failed, that failed, this thing doesn't work, we had to fix, we had an issue with water pressure, etc. So the whole point of bringing all this up is as we, I think, recognize there's a lot of money being spent on broken things and expanding better systems at SAM, and it's inevitable that we're going to be capped for more money for SAM. So maybe start doing that through 18 work. Yeah. So
let me just add that those reports are, usually pretty boring, but there's often something really interesting in the middle of them. But if you read page 37 of our agenda packet, the first page of the January report, it's really emotional. I mean, it's the feelings, the issues that they had in reporting it. And I completely agree with what you say, Matthew, but I also say, if you look through the day by day thing, there's a lot of people working a lot of hours to get things working again, and that whole issue of staff. I do feel like the staff is committed to trying to keep things running there, but it is, I agree also, you just read the number of things that go wrong, and the fact that they were there for long hours, day after day, is kind of troubling.
I read his report every month, and sometimes maybe I've had too much media training. I don't find them very professionally written, because they do use a lot of very almost inflammatory language, or almost sometimes flippant language. And, this is for public consumption. So just, I think maybe this is feedback to Jeremy or Kishan, but they should actually be written for public consumption, and perhaps a bit more professionally for public consumption, because they just throw out a lot of terms that would leave you feeling like, my feeling reading them is they're always on a back foot. Are they ever proactive? It seems like they're always on a back foot, always surprised something goes wrong. Catherine Slater-Carter used the term, and Tim just had his 35th anniversary, praising him for always being able to do something with duct tape and chewing gum. And as somebody who depends on the sewer system, I went, I don't like to hear words like it's miraculous, like he's great with duct tape and chewing gum. But when I read those reports, it's like a constant MacGyver episode.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think that it really is, but the way they're written, you can't walk away with any other impression than that. So either there needs to be a lot more proactivity, or if these are, really routine things that happen that are just handled in a routine day, they need to be written that way. Because if you read those reports, you would wonder how the thing even runs. And I don't mean to, to be super critical. I just think there has to be more attention to, you're making an impression on the public of the efficiency and effectiveness of the personnel running something that is a vital piece of coast site infrastructure. And the reports should be sort of written with that seriousness in mind. And so sometimes Tim can be flippant and he's funny, and sometimes I think he's being funny in a place where it's not really appropriate to be funny. And that I think is some feedback that should go back to Kishan. I would really like to feel confidence, even when things go wrong, that they were things that you couldn't have predicted, or there are routine things that happen, and I just don't get a sense of confidence written in the way they're written.
I was like, no, it's 9:01.
You what?
It's 9:01.
I have
okay.
2
I
hours.
want to wrap up by saying that I believe it's inevitable that Sam is going to need more money, and that we're going to have to provide our 20 or whatever percent, and that for all the overtime and all the 24-hour days that they do, the actual the crew personnel hours appears to me to be a relatively small amount of this. It's the new pumps and the pipelines, and this is in the vats that are being replaced, or 58,000 here and 198,000 there, that have to be covered.
Yeah. And basins 3 and 4 are still not in use.
Yeah. Didn't they have some low flow months when they could have done that?
We authorized a lot of money. There's a lot of discussion about putting Basin 4 into operation. They thought that was critical. That was just a year ago where we had all that argument. We finally, as a board, agreed to support the funding to do that, and it's still not being used.
Yeah, and I want to point out, we have been funding this stuff for years and years and years, and that dialogue keeps popping up that it's not enough or whatnot. They have 3 full-time mechanics. 3 full-time mechanics there, and you guys see the Calcom bills, which is an outside contractor. It's $300,000, $350,000 a year. So it's not like they're spending money and there's people there.
I really want
to tamp down that narrative because it makes it seem like there's deferred maintenance. Well, there shouldn't be.
Yeah. And the amount that's being contributed, I have a graph that shows the CIP numbers that have been authorized. And it, for the last 10 years, it goes like this.
And that's
so
just CIP, not there's equipment repair, professional services, all the stuff that floated into the operating budget too.
So it's not as if the agencies are not providing support. And one more thing is I asked, and maybe I can still get it. I'd like to see this graph. It's in here combined with the December graph. And the problem with this graph is it doesn't show the New Year's Eve storms.
Yeah,
and
one right after the other.
That it's a really interesting graph, but it doesn't really convey it because of the fact that it starts a day too late. So maybe I'll ask again. Maybe I would think it'd be easy to print out.
Yeah, it's just a query. You just need to do the query.
Yeah, just change the date range from pre-printed. I need to ask for any public comments on this agenda item before we move on. Seeing no hands, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes February 23rd, 2023 special meeting minutes, March 2023 warrants, January 2023 financial statements, and the assessment district distribution number 5-22-23. Would anybody like to pull any of those items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, would somebody like to move to approve the consent agenda? Second? Okay, Di and Randall, any further comment? All in favor?
When's the last distribution
Of the assessment
to
district?
the assessment district? Okay. Are we almost there?
The simple answer is never. The assessment district will go gone.
But we don't have to give it money forever.
No, we're in the process of the general district loan, the assessment district, lots of money back.
That's actually the assessment district paying us back, GCSD, for the overhead costs. So it's coming out of assessment money to GCSD, not the other way around. Yeah.
Any other further comment? Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion passes 4-0.
There's a is there a Q&A question there on the thing on the bottom? Or you can't see it. You can see it. I just see one little number for Q&A. I just want to make sure that there's not something we're missing there.
It's been there for a while.
Oh, it's been there for a while. Okay.
If that person is still on board, Jill Grant was ill this evening and didn't attend, as we said earlier. Committee reports, any reports on seminars, conferences, or committee meetings? Seeing none, we'll move.
This is not entirely appropriate for this point, but I wanted to bring up that GCSD had a treatment plant of sorts over by the manufactured home community called Pillar Ridge, and it's a 9,300 square foot parcel, and you should go over there sometime if you like concrete covered by jungle. And immediately around it, CAL FIRE and the county parks are removing invasive plants like pine trees and cleaning up that area to reduce the fuel load because it's right next to that manufactured home community. And I contacted Delia about this to see if we could say, hey, your little 1/4 of an acre too, because it's right on the fence with that manufactured home community. I don't know, I don't expect they'll do it for free, but they've already started, the work's supposed to go into April. So, I think the district should make a formal contact with the county and CAL FIRE and see if they can just add that in and what it will take.
Put it on the next agenda. See if we can get some more information.
Yeah, maybe RCD can help.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the information calendar, number 11, attorney's report.
No report.
Nice to have you back in the room.
Nice
Number 12, someone else nice to have back in the room. General manager's report.
Nothing further. First time in 3 years.
Administrative staff report.
Nothing further.
Delia sent a correction to that.
Yeah, everybody here has the corrected copy.
Okay. Sewer thing, permits thing. Future agenda items. I just made a note that the park review and naming needs to go on the April agenda. Director Grant had asked for an agenda item regarding partnerships for parks and recreation. I did send her a follow-up note asking her to detail that a little bit more about the focus and outcome before we add it on there. And project phasing will be dependent on when we get to financing information. Any other future agenda items?
No, I would just note that partnerships is something you really start pursuing when you have a project.
Yeah. So she was referring to the application, or the application to LAFCO from 2013 listed a number of intentions to partner. I don't know if she had the approval. Staff memo from LAFCO required us to have a number of partnerships, which, as Chuck noted, we still have. But that's why I wanted to have more information on what specifically was her question.
I have a question. The future agenda items are all staff or board, except the 3, 5, 6, and 7 are from GJ.
The grand jury report.
The grand jury report.
We can, that can be removed.
Okay, if nothing further, then we are adjourned at 9:10.
What?
I was aiming for less than 2 hours from 7:30, so.
Okay.